Secret room behind a bookshelf brings us to number 10. I know what you guys must be thinking. This has to be a hoax, right? Wrong. This stuff actually happens in real life, believe it or not. And maybe you have a secret room in your house that's waiting to be discovered. So right now, go around your house, start breaking down walls. Okay, maybe not. Okay, let's get back into this. We have two brothers who are playing around in one of the rooms in their house when the little brother ran into the bookshelf and it opened up and it actually led them to a secret spiral staircase that led to another secret crawl space. Sounds cool, right? Well, think again. A stranger was apparently living in this room, and that's not all. That's not where this ends. The stranger must have snuck around the house and stolen items from them because there was empty wrappers from Halloween candy that was taken from one of the boys' rooms. Could you imagine having a creeper living in your house, tiptoeing around, maybe, you know, watching you as you sleep?
Moving on to number 9 now, we have Joshua's room. A pair of house hunters in America were seriously disturbed by what they found in the basement of one house they were looking at. There were strange lookout holes in the stairs coming from the basement below. When they went down to the basement, they found graffiti written for what seemed to be a little boy called Joshua. The walls were covered with messages like, "Josh, stop reading this and go to bed. Mom." Another read, "Josh's rules. 1. No watching Isaiah through the hole, and 2. No writing or drawing on the walls." Another simply said, "Don't climb into my room, Isaiah." But for me, the most creepy one was, "Stop watching me." Who were Joshua and Isaiah? Why were they living in the basement? And who was watching them? People still discuss this story even today. At number 8 now, we have the Gargoyle. In 2014, Imgur user Hickensource shared their discovery of a secret room in their house. They said they were walking around their house one day when they noticed a window for a room they didn't even know existed. It looked like a cellar. Inside there was a workbench fastened to the wall. Then he found a wall panel cut which he peeled back to reveal a door behind the workbench. Through that door laid a creepy looking room filled with junk. There were newspapers from the 1970s, old playing cards, a strange looking machine, and perhaps creepiest of all, an old gargoyle surrounded by broken bits of wood. Gargoyles are pretty creepy, even on a good day. Extra creepy when you find them in a secret room under your house. No thanks. At number 7 now, we have the Squatter. This one comes from Imgur user 2Bite Brownie, who shared pictures of a creepy discovery in his house. He said he and his younger brother were playing around one day when one of them fell into a bookcase. It moved, revealing a hidden room behind it. They found a black staircase that spiraled downwards. By this point, they were already very freaked out. About halfway down, they found a crawl space, and to their absolute horror, it looked like someone had been living there. There was a makeshift bed covered in their own Halloween candy. They realized that whoever was living there must have crawled into their bedroom when they weren't there to steal candy from them before retreating back to their hiding spot behind the bookshelf. I think at that point I'd either be running out the front door or just jumping straight out the window. Moving on to number 6 now, we have Black Mould. Jason and Kerry Brown were a couple from South Carolina who were renovating their new home in 2005. They began to remove some bookcases in one of the bedrooms when they discovered a hidden passageway that led to a hidden room. Nervously, they walked down the dark corridor, and there, in the very small room at the end, they found a mysterious note from the previous owner. It read, "You found it. Hello. If you're reading this, then you found the secret room. I owned this house for a short while, and it was discovered to have a serious mold problem, one that actually made my children very sick to the point we had to move out." Kerry and Johnson were naturally very shocked by this. They eventually made contact with the previous owner, who went into more detail about that situation. After some tests on the house, they found it was true. The house had levels of black mold 4 to 5 times higher than the outside, potentially dangerous for young children. It seems that the housebroker may have hid this information when selling them the house. Perhaps they should be thankful to the stranger and their slightly creepy note. Moving on to number 5 now, we have Bad Stomach. In 2013, some Norwegian students said their landlord told them there was a secret room somewhere in their house, but not where it was. That's creepy enough, but they actually found it and they took these pictures. One of them said it took them a long time to discover it, and said that it was actually found by accident when one of them was in the attic and just kind of stretched out. Suddenly, the wall behind them moved. Behind it, they found a tiny area filled with items from World War II. There was a mysterious sign that read, "If you have a bad stomach, you do not have access." There was also an alarm made of a single light bulb, an old map of Europe, and perhaps the most creepy object of all, a single white doll shoe. It was all quite a mystery until they were visited by some local historians who saw the post online. It turns out the room was used to secretly make newspapers bunkers during the Nazi occupation in World War II. Although they tried, the Nazis never actually found that room. All they needed to do was just stretch and push the wall. Simple. Next up at number 4 now, we have the Crawlspace. This one is a very small room. Very small indeed. Only enough room to crawl in. It was discovered in 2014 by Reddit user Lumberjack. He posted a picture to Reddit and what he discovered so far in it. The Crawlspace contained a strange looking locked door. Now through that door there was a room where the walls, floor and ceiling were totally covered in soundproofing boards and a plastic tarp. There were also 4 power outlets in a small area that looked like a raised single bed. The creepiest part was yet to come though. He found a briefcase. Inside that was an old jewelry box, envelopes with currency from all over the world and 4 1-ounce silver ingots. There was also a safe containing some old tapes. He couldn't play them though, and so decided to hand everything over to the police at that point. They refused to reveal the results of their investigation, sparking fierce debate about what this creepy room was all about. My guess is spies. It's gotta be spies. What do you guys think? At number 3 now, we have The Stranger. This is another squatter story. In 2013, Brett Muglin and Mark Hartman moved into their new off-campus house for their senior year at Ohio State University. After a few days in their new home, they woke one morning and found every door in their house had been opened. Everything. Room doors, the dishwasher door, the fridge dryer, washing machine, oven and microwave, all of them had their doors open. At first they thought it was just a college prank, but one day they heard noises coming from downstairs. They grabbed a baseball bat and a knife and went to investigate. When they reached the basement, they found a locked door no one had a key to, and there was sound coming from inside. A few days later, one of their friends who was visiting said that they had met their new housemate Jeremy in the basement. Brett and Mark just froze and said, "We don't have a housemate called Jeremy." At that point, they called the landlord and the police, who went straight to that mysterious door. They prized open the door to find a secret room that a man had been living in the whole time they were there. There were pictures of him with his friends and family by the bed. The bed itself was unmade and there were books everywhere. The room even included a toilet and a bathroom. He had been using a secret side door to sneak in and out of the house. It turns out the man's cousin had lived in the house the year before, and when they all left, he just set up in this secret basement room. I wonder how long he was planning on staying for. Next up at number 2 now, we have The Last Supper. In Hanny's restaurant and bar, there is a secret room you can visit if you know where to look. You may not want to though. Deep in this basement in Arizona, you can find these dolls on display. At first it looks like they've been randomly placed, but on closer inspection the dolls seem to be set up to mimic the famous painting of the Last Supper. I presume the doll in the middle is meant to be Jesus. Either way, it's a very creepy sight to see, even if you are expecting it. If you just stumbled across it while you're looking for the bathroom, well, it's probably a good job you're already on the way to the toilet. And finally, number 1 now, we have Peter Pan. In 2010, 2 women clearing out an abandoned basement in an old building in LA made a very gruesome discovery. They found the bodies of 2 babies from the 1930s. The bodies were wrapped in sheets and hidden in 2 doctor's bags, along with some crumpled 1930s newspapers and other belongings. The trunk had the name J.M. Barrie on it. Now, she was a nurse from Scotland. She had the same initials as James M. Barrie, the Scottish author of Peter Pan. Yeah, the Peter Pan. What's strange though is that there appears to be no connection between the 2 of them. A copy of Peter Pan and membership papers for the Peter Pan Woodland Club Resort were also included in those findings. Coroners said there were no signs of trauma on the babies or that they had been aborted. One had reached full term while the other was much smaller and could have been born prematurely. This mysterious and grisly case is still ongoing, and many people online have taken it upon themselves to solve this mystery.
Starting us off at number 10, we have the Crawlspace. One Reddit user was in for a horror movie moment after taking a look through his new home. While doing some searching, he found a small passageway with a creepy locked door at the end of it. After managing to open the door, it was revealed that he had a whole secret room in his house, which, depending on how you look at it, is either cool or creepy. I think it's kind of cool. Like, I'd turn it into a nice little cool layer for me. But it's what was inside this room that made it terrifying. In his room, he found a briefcase and a safe, which contained money, watches, and multiple videotapes titled "No, no, 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 no." I have no idea what was found on those tapes, and I'm not sure if I want to know, especially with a title like that.
Moving on to number 9 now, we have the Pyramid Room. In 2016, scientists used advanced techniques to scan the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt. Despite it being 4,500 years old and it being studied by archaeologists for over a century, they found a couple of hidden rooms. Because of how old the pyramids are, the experts couldn't climb directly into the chambers, which were also very small. Even today, they still haven't been able to get inside these rooms, which are believed to hold artifacts and furniture for use in the afterlife by the pharaoh who was buried there. Some people say these rooms were kept hidden and inaccessible for a reason, and that opening them up will unleash a curse on the intruders, as it did when Howard Carter opened Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922. At number 8 now, we have the Winchester Mystery House. This is a huge mansion built in San Jose, California by Sarah Winchester, widow of the Winchester fortune's heir. It took 30 years to complete, from 1884 to 1922. The Winchester family were the ones who made the famous Winchester guns. Some people say that Sarah was scared of being haunted by all the people who had been killed by the hands of a Winchester gun over the years, and so she decorated the mansion in strange ways to confuse the ghosts. By the time she died, the house had 160 rooms, 10,000 windows, 2,000 doors, 47 fireplaces, and even a few spy holes. In 2016, years after she died, everyone was shocked to hear that a secret room had been discovered. Sarah had boarded it up after an earthquake in 1906, and some say it became associated with evil spirits. The room was filled with strange dusty objects, including a pump organ, a Victorian couch, sewing machines, and paintings. Staff said they already knew about the room and that it was actually a shooting gallery that they had installed. Some conspiracy theorists said this was a lie though, and that they were trying to cover up the creepy discoveries in this long forgotten room. Moving on to number 7 now, we have the cellar. This one comes from Reddit user ZZ870, who said that one day as a kid his family was staying in an old bed and breakfast. The owners didn't like anyone going down into the basement. They said it was too dangerous because of all the rusty tools and metal and pieces of lumber with nails sticking out. He decided to hang out there anyway because it had a spooky atmosphere. One day he decided to open the door at the back of the basement. He thought it would lead back outside, but instead he found a cobblestone tunnel that led underneath the foundations of the house. As he walked along, it got darker and darker, and he noticed it was full of spiders. A door appeared to the right that led to a pitch black room. He was terrified by this point and turned his phone light on to see. This revealed a small light switch. He flicked it on and saw a table and a chair covered in dust. Random objects littered the floor. Immediately he thought this must be where the owners keep unwanted children or even torture people. He ran out and never looked back. He later asked the owners what the room was for, and they said it was used to store potatoes. An unlikely story, but perhaps a lot less gruesome than the truth. Next up at number 6 now, we have the Nazi room. In June 2017, Argentine police were searching a house in Buenos Aires when they made a startling discovery. Behind a bookcase they found a door, and behind that they found a huge hoard of World War II Nazi artifacts. After World War II, many high-ranking Nazis fled to Argentina to escape justice for their crimes. An art collector had kept many of the artifacts in that house, but had kept them hidden for fear of repercussions. Among the Nazi objects was a magnifying glass that historians say belonged to Hitler, some Nazi daggers, children's toys with swastikas on them, and a head measuring tool used in the disgraced practice of eugenics. At number 5 now, we have the Parisian Apartment. In 1940, a woman called Mr. Florian fled Paris as the Nazis arrived during World War II. She packed only what she needed before heading to the south of France. She never came back. She lived out the rest of her life there, but strangely she continued to pay rent on her apartment back in Paris as it gathered dust for more than 7 decades. When she died aged 91, her family found the apartment mentioned in her finances. They made the journey to Paris, and when they opened it, they were shocked. It was frozen in time. The whole thing was filled with all of her strange collections: early Mickey Mouse toys, stuffed ostriches, erotic paintings, one of which went on to sell for 2.1 million euros. It appears that Miss Florian did not want the apartment to be discovered and hoped the room would be left frozen in time. At number 4 now, we have the chapel. In 2010, Pa and Diane Fowler found a strange metal grid in their old Victorian home in England. They pulled it away to reveal a strange cellar which they never knew existed. After lighting up the darkness, it appeared the cellar was actually a chapel. In the center of the room was a wooden cross which appeared to have fallen down and was now rotting away. An expert reviewed the room and said it was probably used as a Catholic hideaway from religious persecution sometime during the 1700s. 1800s. The family said that after they discovered the basement, they went back upstairs to take some pictures. They took a picture of one family member, Karen, who was pregnant. When the pictures came out, there was something white on the photo by her belly. The family thinks it's the orb of a ghost that had been released when they opened up this hidden chapel. Next up at number 3 now we have computers. This story comes from Reddit user Jeffrey Goldberg. He said that in 2006 he went to a school that was built sometime in the 1800s. He said it was a big old building that stood 4 stories high. There were a lot of staircases there, and in one corner of the building was a staircase that nobody had ever used. During his senior year, Jeffrey and his friend were wandering the hallways when they decided to use this unused staircase. They noticed that it spiraled down below. They followed it and went along a hallway and then found a door that was slightly cracked open. They stepped inside to find a large room filled with cubicles and dozens of employees on computers. None of the people on the computers were school staff. They were shocked and confused. They quickly turned around and left. They tried to return a few times later, but the door was always locked. To this day, they don't know what the room was for and who those people were. Do you guys have any theories? Next up, number 2 now, we have the attic wall. In October 2017, a man from Florida uploaded a video of him finding a hidden room behind an attic wall in what he described as the weirdest thing he'd ever seen. He was changing the air conditioning system when he discovered this tiny room in the attic of the house. It was covered in red carpet and even had its own ventilation system. There were 2 license plates on the wall along with a men's room sign. There were also a few empty pizza boxes just to add to the mystery of it all. It got even weirder when he found a makeshift toilet that the occupant would use to pee. The man said he had never seen anything like it in his life. Many people online began wondering who or what would design such a comfortable space equipped with its own toilet. What were they hiding from? Do they still live there perhaps? The discovery produced far more questions than answers. Finally, at number 1 now, we have the painting. Reddit user Acer1 said that he once met a college girl at a defunct frat house in Wisconsin. They had lost their charter for some reason. He was about to find out why. The pair fell for each other and he moved into the place with her. Things were fine at first, but then one night when they were drunk, she took him up to a room that was empty. He hadn't seen it before. It had 2 bunk beds and above one bed there was a secret hatch. They went through to an upstairs room where most of the hazing rituals had taken place. Then she told him the story. She said that one night in the dead of winter a girl was assaulted by a group of frat boys there. They left her up there in the cold and she ended up dying from hypothermia. One of the boys was supposedly so distraught that he went up there the next day and painted her picture on the wall, and then while they were up there, he said he swore that the eyes on the picture of the girl would follow him around the room. There were also reports of crying coming from the attic on cold winter nights. He said he never went up there again.
Coming in number 10, we have the Empire State Building 103rd floor viewing room. I mean, if you want to see the whole New York skyline and you don't want to break the bank on your trip to the top of the Empire State Building and you want to grab a drink, you better believe that there's a hotel called The Standard that has all of those things. But for those of you who really want to head to the top of New York and can't do it without popping into the iconic Empire State Building, then I'll have you know that you're not even getting the best view. You spent all that money to go to the top of the Empire State Building only to find out that there is a secret room that you are not qualified to check out. There happens to be a 103rd floor that you can't get to. This helps the rich and famous see the whole city without tourist crowds. Now I'm sorry, but just going to the front desk and asking if you can get there isn't enough. You actually have to be someone of status. Unless you're very rich, very famous, or a government official, you are not going anywhere near the 103rd floor. I'm sorry, but you're just not important enough. The government and the people who run the building don't want you going up to that floor because it's going to lose its attraction. I'm sorry, but you're going to be stuck on the 102nd floor, looking up, wondering which important people are hovering above you.
Next up at number 9 now we have the lottery killer. This story comes from Plant City, Florida, where an inspection of an air conditioning unit led to a crazy discovery. During the inspection, the worker found a wall panel that looked a little bit out of place. When he pushed it back, he was amazed to find a carpeted walkway that led to a secret hidden room. The room had stained wooden walls and a carpeted floor. There were electrical cables strewn everywhere, a light switch, and even a bathroom that came out at the wall. There were also personal items scattered around, including 2 license plates screwed into the wall directly above the door. The story of this room spread quickly and then a huge twist came. A man who heard the story came forward to say that he had some information about the house. It had previously been owned by D.D. Moore. She's the person convicted of the famous lottery killing in Florida, a murder that resulted in the death of local lottery winner Abraham Shakespeare. The license plate found screwed up in the attic was a match with D.D. Moore's car. It's thought that the convicted killer used this room as a place to hide from the police as they searched for her. Moving on to number 8 now, we have the Soviet bunker. In 2017, a man discovered an abandoned Soviet-era bunker and was amazed to find an almost pristine-looking area frozen in time. The man found the bunker while wandering through surrounding land near an old factory in Russia. He discovered a small concrete building and decided to take a look. After passing through a dark corridor and 2 giant metal doors, he found the main bunker, which amazingly still had a working electric light and ventilation. The place was loaded up with old newspaper cuttings, photographs, boots, tools, medicine, and even old gas masks. The boxes appear to date back to World War II. The Russian government has never acknowledged this bunker's existence, leading many rumours to sprout up online about when and why it was used. Moving on now to number 7, we have the scratching. This story was told by Reddit user Wacker. They said that when they first moved into their house, he was doing some renovations with one of his friends to make the place more suitable for his future family, including his pregnant wife. He was renovating the TV room in the basement when he noticed a closet which was inside the stairs. He never really noticed it before, so he opened it up and found another door on the left that was concealed. The previous owner had never mentioned anything about this. He went to bed that night and hardly slept at all. There were scratching noises coming from the basement. He presumed it was mice and made a note to put mice traps down the next day. Fast forward 2 months and his friend John was over to help with the renovation. He mentioned the basement and John insisted they go through this secret door to check out what's behind it. They tried to open it, but neither of them could open it all of the way. It was only half open. They squeezed through to a small dark room, too small for them to stand up in. They shed some light and saw that the floor and walls were made of concrete, except one wall on the opposite side of the door that had a giant 2-way mirror covering the whole thing. On the other side of the mirror was his own bedroom. The camera had a tape in it that was full of footage. Someone had been filming him and his family from behind the mirror for as long as they had been there. Perhaps this was why the previous owner never said anything at all. Next up at number 6 now, we have the Area 51 autopsy room. I'm sure many of you guys have heard of Area 51, the military base where conspiracy theorists say the US military hid the wreckage from the 1947 crashing of a UFO in Roswell, New Mexico. For many years this story remained exactly that, just a story. Then in 1995 a man called Ray Santilli released some footage that claimed to show an alien autopsy in Area 51. The film showed men in white coats apparently dissecting the dead alien in this mysterious room. For UFO hunters, this was undeniable proof that a UFO crashed in Roswell and that the US government was hiding the evidence from the public. Moving on to number 5 now, we have The Prisoner. This is another story that was shared by a Redditor. Nuke Storm said that he was exploring his new home one day when he found a hidden door in the corner of his attic. He only noticed it while moving around some boxes up there. The door was about 4 foot tall with a metal grate fastened over the hole. He opened up the door carefully, not knowing what he would find. Inside, he found a single light, a small hard bed, and walls with foam padding. At first it seemed odd, but not too scary. That was until he noticed one thing. The inside of the door had no handle and no lock. Whoever was sleeping in here was meant to be trapped in there, kept as a prisoner by whoever was on the other side of that door. The padded walls meant that if you were locked in there, nobody would ever hear you, no matter how loud you screamed. Who was kept here? Why were they imprisoned? And perhaps more worryingly, where are they now? Next up at number 4 now, we have the Mole Man. 121 Mortimer Road in East London has a secret. Back in 2006, the front of the house looked like a crumbling ruin. The roof had caved in, 3 of the windows were boarded up, and cracked paint peeled from the wrinkled walls. But behind the house lied something astonishing. The owner, William Little, had been digging holes behind the house since the early 1960s. By chipping away at the dirt with a shovel and a homemade pulley, he created a web of tunnels and caverns. Some of them were 26 feet deep and spread for 65 feet in every direction from the house. By doing so, he had shifted over 3,500 cubic feet of dirt. The council had been vaguely aware of his digging, but had no idea it had reached this extent. When one side of the street lost power one day after he tapped into a 450 volt cable, the council admitted that Mr. Little's tunnel were now putting the neighbourhood at risk. They obtained a court order to temporarily evict him in order to enable engineers to fill the holes with cement. Mr. Little was billed for the £100,000 cost. The Mole Man, as locals called him, was questioned about why he dug the holes. He only ever said it was a wine cellar. His neighbors seem to think that he lied though, and there is much more to the story of the Mole Man. Next up at number 3 now we have the weapons. The pictures you're about to see were posted online by a guy who bought his new house for pretty cheap after the previous owner passed away. He had already seen the basement when viewing the house, but it wasn't until a lot of stuff was cleared out that he noticed a suspicious piece of wood next to the stairs. When he tried to move it, it just wouldn't budge. He grabbed some tools and managed to pry the wood away from the staircase and the wall. What he saw inside shocked him. It was a small room, only about 4x4. Inside were gun cases, military ammo crates, and a big grey metal container. This was more than just a hobby. Whoever put this here needed a lot of weapons and guns. Also, there was a large safe. He estimated it weighed at least 200 pounds. One of the crates even contained a grenade. Then there was a bag full of hundreds of thousands of pennies. Why not keep money in notes to save space? Well, if the economy ever collapsed and money had no value, the copper in the pennies would actually be worth a lot simply because of what they're made of. It looks like this person might have been preparing for the end of times. Were they wrong about it happening, or is it still yet to come? Moving on to number 2 now, we have the subway bedroom. In December 2015, authorities in Berlin were shocked to find a secret room on the city's U9 subway line, specifically a bedroom. It was discovered during a routine fire inspection of the tunnels. The bedroom was complete with a table, chair, lamp, TV, and of course a bed, which was very neatly made. The next question was now, whose bedroom is this? Well, nobody seems to know, but there are some theories floating about. German social media suggested it may be students saving on rent, or perhaps artists staging some kind of performance. Authorities have a different theory though. They seem to think it was created by someone involved in Berlin's graffiti scene. Tagging trains and platforms with spray paint is still a common activity in Berlin. It's thought that this bedroom was the hideout of one of those underground graffiti artists. And finally, number 1 now, we have the House of Knives. In 2015, police officers arrested a woman who tried to stab an officer. When they entered her home, they were shocked at one of the rooms they found. The whole place was covered wall to wall with 500 bladed weapons. Photos of the home showed a number of dark rooms like this with hundreds of knives and several fake skulls scattered around the rooms. Fake severed limbs were also seen hanging in the home, along with fake skeletons with knives stuck in them. When police arrived at the house, they found her hiding in one of these rooms, lurking in the dark behind the many rows of blades. When she eventually came out, officers used a stun gun on her and quickly took her into custody. Nobody was injured. The county sheriff said the woman was a danger to the community and she faced a number of charges, including assault of an officer and resisting arrest. 10 with the Nope Room. This was a name given to a room posted to Reddit by user Colombian Thunder. He found that his house had a bunker below it. After squeezing his phone through one of the cracks in the door, he took these creepy pictures. Look away now if you don't like insects. At first glance, the bunker looks like it's full of spiders, but actually they're crickets. They don't have fangs or the ability to bite. That may make some people feel a little bit better about this room, but others are probably just as creeped out. One Reddit commenter said, "This looks like both the scene in Aliens when they peeked about the ceiling tiles and the scene in Cloverfield when they turned on the infrared on the camera in the subway."
Creepy religious room is in at number 9 on our list. A family made a shocking discovery when they decided to find out what was hiding underneath a large metal grate that was in the middle of their hallway. After removing the crate, they found a hole that was just big enough for them to squeeze through. I'm pretty sure a small hole in the ground would be enough for me to not squeeze through it, but for me to, walk away. But not for this family for some reason. Once they made it down the creepy shaft, they were in a small pitch black cellar that looked like it could have been a chapel. In the middle of the room, there was an old wooden cross that was slowly rotting away, and there were also hooks hanging from the ceiling, which could have been used to hang meat. So yeah, I'm naturally confused here. Was this a secret chapel, or maybe was it a kill room? I have no desire to find out what really went on in this cellar, so you know what? I think it's time that we move on. Let's not talk about it anymore. Let's see what we have next. And well, we're at number 8 right now. Number 8, behind the walls. A family decided to put an offer on their dream home in Pennsylvania after the home inspection proved that it was a solid house. But the home inspector missed one huge detail. He failed to look at the walls and the strange thing that was hiding inside of them. The family wanted to add better insulation into one of the rooms, so they opened up the walls and they found a dark secret. They found some Old Spice cans and newspapers newspapers that dated back to like 30s or 40s, but that's not where the weird part of the story is. Those newspapers were covering bones from animal corpses. After they tore up the rest of the walls, the smell became unbearable, and the more they tried to fix it, the worse that it actually got. The family got very sick from the dead animals inside of their house, and they had to spend thousands of dollars trying to get rid of the animal bones. I mean, what happened and who put these bones in the walls? World War II hidden room comes in at number 7. A Reddit user from Norway posted some pretty disturbing pictures of a hidden room that he discovered in the attic of his house. Apparently his landlord told him that the house had a hidden room, but he was extremely vague on, where it was. So instead of working or being productive, the renter thought that it would be a good idea to go exploring, be Dora the Explorer. Well, he accidentally found the room when he kicked a wall in the attic. And inside of this dark secret room was a sign that read, if you have a bad stomach, then you don't have access. I mean, what the heck does that mean? I don't have a good stomach. I'd get the heck out of there. Why do I need a strong stomach? What is about to happen? Was he about to die? There was also a lamp alarm that was used to warn people nearby when someone came into the room, and there was an old map of Western Europe. Oh, and also they found an old doll shoe that looked like it came straight out of a horror movie. I'd say you're better off boarding up that wall and forgetting this wall or this experience ever existed. The real-life Dexter room slices its way into number 6. A man was extremely surprised when he discovered a small passageway in his attic that was blocked by a locked door. Locked doors for me mean I'm not going to enter. It means I'm not that curious. Well, obviously this made this person curious, and he decided to burst open the padlock to see what was hiding behind this door. Why do people do this? Well, he probably should have called his realtor and put the house back on the market, because what he found was actually pretty terrifying. Once he crawled through the tiny space, busted open the lock, and opened the door, he found a soundproofed room covered in plastic with a platform in the middle and a suitcase. I can only imagine what went on in this room. Inside of the suitcase there was jewelry and several black tapes that had "No, no, no" and "Save yourself" written on them. He handed the tapes over to the police, and I guess we'll never know what are on those tapes, but I'm sure we can all take a few wild guesses. Maybe this was the real life Dexter house. And I'm not talking about Dexter, what is it called, Dexter's Laboratory. I'm not talking about it was his house. I'm talking about the guy that murdered people. Peephole staircase brings us to number 5. Two people were house hunting when they stumbled across this extremely terrifying discovery. They made their way down a flight of rickety old stairs into the basement, and they were pretty disturbed. Behind the stairs, they found an area that looked like it was being used as a bedroom, of some sort. On the back of the stairs, there were creepy and disturbing messages written on the walls. Some of the notes said, "No watching Isaiah through the hole," and "Stop watching me," and also, "Is this real life right now?" Okay, that's something that I would write on the wall. I don't think they saw that on the wall. If they did, that's pretty cool. Well, what's going on here? When they looked even closer, they saw that there were small peepholes carved out of the stairs, so whoever was locked away in this room was able to see out. This is way too sinister for me, and I just want to forget the existence of this, so let's move on. A secret roommate jumps onto our list at number 4. A secret roommate? Well, a group of students from Ohio made a shocking discovery when they found out that a man had been living in a secret room in their house, and you know what? He wasn't even paying rent. Well, that's probably one of the scariest things that could happen to you when you move into a new home. Make sure the new home is empty first. At first, the students thought that they were being haunted by a ghost because their cupboards were always left open and they heard strange noises. But as it turns out, the ghost was actually a real person, and the truth was way more terrifying. After they extensively searched the house, they discovered a room in the basement behind a door that led to a secret room. Inside, they found a double bed, students' textbooks, and pictures. I guess college is really expensive because this guy was living rent-free for a very long time. The student quickly changed the locks and left a note for their unwanted roommate, telling him that he couldn't live there anymore. If it was me, I'd probably leave a note saying $800, please. And then you can stay in that secret room and I won't tell anybody. We don't have to get the police involved. A terrifying hideout takes us to number 3. An HVAC worker was doing some renovations on a house when he suddenly discovered a secret room in the attic of the garage. He realized that a piece of the wall didn't look like it belonged. So he pushed on it, which turned out to be a hidden room. Inside, there were air vents, stained wood walls, carpeted floors, cable hookups, electrical outlets, and even a makeshift bathroom. There were some personal items thrown around the room and 2 license plates hung on the wall. At first he thought that someone was kept against their will, but the lock was on the inside, not the outside. So that takes that theory out the window. So this room was meant to keep people out. I don't know what is more terrifying. Well, as it turns out, this house used to belong to a man named RJ and his mother DD Moore, also known as the Lottery Killer. She was convicted of murdering a man who won the lottery back in 2012. So maybe this is her secret room that she wanted to use to hide from the police. Number 2, the secret prison cell. Christian Perez has been working as a home inspector in Tampa, Florida for many years. And during his career, he has stumbled across lots of secret and hidden rooms. But he will never forget what he found years ago during one of his inspections. Whenever he thinks about it, he still gets the chills down his spine. He found a small dark room that was tucked behind a wall in the attic. It had a small bed, a strange map of a city, and also tons of empty food cans, so clearly someone's been living there. The homeowners who had been living in the house for the past 25 years, well, they said that they never even knew that this room existed. So could it be plausible that someone lived there for the past 25 years? During an investigation, no one was able to come up with a definitive answer for what this room was used for. But they speculate that someone might have been held captive there. And this is why you should always have a home inspection before buying. And I'm thinking we go one small step forward, and anytime you buy a house, I think you should just gut it. The Murder Castle tops this list at number 1. One of the most notorious buildings that was full of secret rooms was the Chicago Murder Castle, which was designed by the infamous serial killer H.H. Holmes. The entire building was posed as a hotel, but in reality, it was a maze full of secret kill rooms with winding passageways, trapdoors, chutes, and dungeons that was full of acid vats and other torturous devices. When it was being built, he hired construction workers, and then he killed them so no one had any idea what was going on. He killed the people that designed the room, so now no one knows about it. The building had its very own crematorium so that he can use to, dispose of his victims' bodies in secret. This has to be one of the most scariest things I've ever heard of. I wonder if there are other buildings like this in the world, and I'm willing to say that there probably are. I mean, this guy probably inspired a lot of other people, which is crazy to say.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have the abortion clinic. We are beginning now with a really intense one, so I hope you are all ready. I have warned you. In 2012, it was reported that workers on a house in Missouri discovered a secret basement which used to be an illegal abortion clinic. The workmen found 2 human fetuses stored in jars there. They were protected by ceramic containers and covered with a cloth beneath an old medical examining table. The owner didn't seem to be surprised, as he had heard rumors from his parents that the house was being used as an illegal abortion clinic back in the 1950s. Police were called to decide on what to do with the fetuses, but they said they would not be investigating any further. If that sounds like a very strange discovery, we are only just getting started.
Alright, in at number 9 today is a hidden chapel. One family had been putting off investigating what was below a metal grate in their floor for over 3 years. But one night, after a few drinks, they decided to go for it. What they found was an old brick room, but the creepiest part of all was a large broken stone cross that was laying in the middle of the floor. One history expert said that the room may have been used to hide Catholics who were being persecuted against, which makes sense, but still finding any sort of deteriorating religion symbols in a secret room is the prime setup for the next The Nun movie. That movie absolutely freaks me out.
Next at number 8, we have the extra roommate. A group of students from Ohio State U thought that their house was haunted after they kept hearing strange noises and finding open cupboards that they knew they had shut.
As it turns out, their maintenance closet wasn't actually a maintenance closet at all, and the door in the basement that they never opened actually led them to a room that never even existed.
In this room, they found a bed, textbooks, and photos, all belonging to somebody named Jeremy. All I gotta say is I hope Jeremy was paying rent, because he's not living there scot-free. I don't know if they ever got the police involved, but the actual residents immediately changed the locks and left Jeremy a note telling him he can't live there anymore.
Seems like a pretty common eviction if you ask me, especially consider the circumstances. I don't know how I would handle the situation, but buddy, you can't live rent free. At least if you're living in a hole somewhere in my house, pay me like $400 or something.
Yeah, I'd be like, how many months were you living there? Okay, pay up, buddy. No, thank you.
Hey, give me those chips back you stole. Filling in number 7 spot, we have the secret munitions room. After seeing some out of the place boards in the basement, one homeowner peeled back to discover a secret room built into the foundation of his room.
This wasn't just an empty bonus room either. It was full of empty gun cases, ammunition, and even a grenade. Luckily, the grenade was a dud.
Is this real life right now? I'm just wondering what sort of person lived there before him. A mob boss? A drug dealer? A spy?
I don't know, why would they leave that all behind? Like, yeah, let me just leave my grenade for the next person to find? Like...
Or is this Jeremy again?
Jeremy, not Jeremy. Jeremy's just going from house to house living in people's crawl spaces and stuff. Coming in at number 6 is the shower room. One construction worker was hired to do some plumbing in a condo, but what he found was a lot scarier than whatever could be in those pipes. When he was almost done his work, he found a secret office. What's in the secret office? There was a one-way mirror that looked directly into the guest bathroom, aimed at the shower. Like, what sort of creep was hiding and spying in there, and how many people has he been watching the whole time? That's really creepy and disturbing and... ew.
Meeting us halfway through at number 5 is the vintage kitchen. After his father died, one man took over his mansion. Inside, he found the entrance to more than just an empty, old, forgotten room. He found an entire war bunker hidden behind the walls of the house. It's estimated that the bunker was over 100 years old, and it even had a full kitchen complete with appliances, supplies, and cookbooks.
In the number 4 spot today, we have the room behind the mirror. In the story, a Reddit user claimed that when he was younger, the house he lived in had a secret room that was located behind a mirror.
When his family finally decided to check it out, they found a huge blood stain on the floor, which is honestly one of the worst case scenarios that I can think of.
Yeah, I have no idea whose blood it is, or why it was there, or who made the secret room, but that might be for the best.
I have a guess. Jeremy's blood.
It's Jeremy again! It's his blood! Oh no, that's creepy.
We gotta evict Jeremy.
I love you saying Jeremy. It's Jeremy.
Jeremy. I said Jeremy.
Jeremy. Next up at number 3 are the tunnels. One man in Turkey was shocked to find a huge labyrinth of tunnels located in his basement after tearing down some walls for renovation. Apparently, there's a theory that these tunnels were part of a massive underground city where over 20,000 people lived at one point. Can you imagine knowing that your house is literally part of an ancient lost city? Like, that's pretty cool. I like that.
Number 2 today goes to the black mold. After one young family bought a home, they quickly discovered a secret room hidden behind a trick bookcase. Inside this room wasn't anything sinister necessarily. I mean, unless you've seen The Haunting of the Hill House, instead of ghosts or murderers, the family found a note from the previous owner saying that he sold the house because there was a black mold infestation that was making his whole family very sick. The young family quickly packed up their belongings and moved out, making sure to sue the agents who sold them the house for not disclosing the mold problem. And finally, in at number 1 is the closets. This story has been circulating the internet for a little while.
The man behind it said that while staying at his friend's place, he found a secret stairway and door inside a closet. The spookiest part though is that not only does the door lock from the inside, but there were also human-like scratch marks on the inside of the door, both by the doorknob and 5 feet off the ground where the deadbolt is.
Okay, what on earth was trapped inside of that room? Maybe I do not want to know that answer. Was it somebody being held hostage, or was it something evil that was contained to keep everyone else safe?
Guess we may never know, and I don't want to know. It's probably Jeremy! People are pissed off they locked Jeremy in there. No more staying in my house. Honestly.
Starting off at number 10 now, we have Lucifer. Reddit user I Stole Your Face 1789 said that when they went to high school, it was a building that was hundreds of years old. One day, he and his friends noticed a hatch that was about 6 feet off the floor next to the toilets. During a drama lesson, not long after, they snuck out and climbed through that hatch. There was a small corridor beneath the actual corridor that they had to crawl through to get there. Through the vents they could see other classrooms with the students learning inside. They squeezed through a gap in the wall and ended up in a large room that was much colder than where they come from. They used their phones for light but couldn't even light up the other side of the room. Also, something smelled really bad. That's when they saw the body of what looked like a decomposed cat, just some fur and bones by the wall. Even more scary though was the weird stone arch just above the cat that had writing on it. It said, "If you are found here, the school will expel you, but Lucifer shall do much worse." There were a few scratches on the wall next to the writing and also some strange demonic symbols they couldn't make out. They took some pictures and made their escape. They vowed to never tell anyone else at the school for fear of expulsion, but also for fear of the devil himself.
Coming in at number 9, we have the Mount Rushmore Vault. Now this next one is going to sound like it was pulled out of a comic book, but I will let you know that it is 100% real. Behind Abraham Lincoln's head on Mount Rushmore is a secret tunnel that leads to a massive room that is full of US documents. Like, come on. I remember Team America World Police, they had a secret base in Mount Rushmore, but this couldn't be the truth. But would I lie to you? This was actually the original vision of the man who built Mount Rushmore. And can I just say for a moment that this is probably the most patriotic thing that anyone has ever done? I mean, you could put a flag in your front yard, but that is nothing compared to the amount of work that went into building faces of some of the most famous presidents in America into the side of a mountain. But inside this vault are some government documents. Now, what's on those documents, no one really knows. It could be anything. They could be extremely valuable. It could be the Declaration of Independence, or it could be just a bunch of boring files that don't really mean anything. And you are not going to get invited into this vault unless you have some sort of government power. Coming in at number 8, we have the Lehman Brothers secret Times Square building. When you look at all of the massive buildings in Times Square, you probably think that rent must be super high to have a spot in one of those buildings. Well, you would be right, but there is something that is even more valuable than renting the space. It's ads. If every building in Times Square is covered in ads because companies will pay out the butt to have all their stuff promoted up there. And the Lehman Brothers saw this as an opportunity and decided that was all they needed for their building. One of the centerfold buildings in Times Square is owned by the Lehman Brothers, and there is nothing in it. If you were to walk around inside this building, you would literally just have open spaces and dangling wires. The whole thing just acts as a massive billboard, and it's probably very profitable because they don't need to worry about any building upkeep. Coming in at number 7, we have Ni Hao, Hawaii. How big could a secret room be? Well, how about 70 square miles? Well, this one isn't so much a room, but it is very much an island, and it is definitely a secret that the government is trying to keep secret from everyone. This place is closed off to visitors. It is a self-sufficient island that only has 130 people living on it, and although the people are allowed to leave, no one is allowed to enter outside of medical services. There are some very strict rules on this island. For one, there is no booze. Just so you know, you wouldn't be able to sneak on the island and have a big party. The people there aren't really into that. Also, there are no guns, which is probably a good thing, but again, it brings down how much excitement there will be at any given time. And this place has chosen a way of life that is very different from our own. They don't have any plumbing, they have no traditional roads, and everything in terms of food is taken from the land by farmers and brought to the people. They do have electricity, however. All of that comes from solar panels, but they do not have internet. So you're going to have to get very good at talking to people. What a scary thought. Coming in at number 6, we have the Eiffel Tower apartment. If you go to Paris, you can now see what would be the most expensive apartment in the whole city, and that is the Eiffel Tower apartment. The man who built the Eiffel Tower didn't only do it so he could have his masterpiece be the center of attention. No, he wanted to have the best apartment, maybe in the world. At the top of the Eiffel Tower is an apartment that only could be accessed by one man who built the Eiffel Tower himself, Gustave Eiffel. Now, people can go visit, but that isn't even the most secret part of this secret room. There's also something that is underneath one of the legs of the Eiffel Tower, and that is a military bunker that can prep troops in the heart of the city without the enemy catching on. Could you imagine a bunch of French troops popping out of the base of the Eiffel Tower? You have to admit, the French have a way with theatrics. Coming in at number 5, we have Club 33. Here's something that the super rich and the government want to keep hidden from you, and even with me telling you about it, there's a good chance that you still won't be able to afford the entrance fee. See, Club 33 is something something that is hidden away in Disney World. We all know that Disney World is a place where kids come to have their dreams come true, but the kids aren't roaming around free. They're running around with their parents, who, after a long day in the sun taking care of Rugrats, probably want a drink. Turns out you can't get booze when you're at Disney World, but you can if you're part of Club 33. This is a members-only club that is somewhat a high rollers lounge. Only the best of the best can join. You need a recommendation to get in, and on top of that, if you can get accepted, you have to pay a $25,000 membership fee and then $12,000 annually each year after that. It's very much a status symbol. Some suspect that Club 33 has something to do with Jesus or the devil, since we all know that number 33 has strong religious connotations. I don't know if that's true, but if you're blowing your money at Disney World in that amount, you're probably in the Illuminati. Coming at number 4, we have the secret train station under Waldorf Astoria. In movies, high-ranking government officials always have some sort of secret underground transportation that they can use to get around, and some of you think that that couldn't be a real thing in real life. There's no way that something like that could exist. Well, think again. Under one of the most famous hotels in New York, a hotel known as the Waldorf Astoria, there is a train station that is only used by the president himself. This is partly because almost every president has stayed there ever since its inception, but it's also one of the most secure ways for the president to travel. No one can get down there, and even if they did, there is a ton of secret features that the rail car has. For all we know, this thing could be built like a Bond car and have heat-seeking missiles that come through the headlights. Coming at number 3, we have Room 39. This is one of the most secret places in North Korea, which is already a very secretive place. No one really knows what goes on in Room 39, but people suspect that government workers work in there to try and create revenue for North Korea through illegal activity. Thought that they could be cooking and organizing the distribution of crystal meth, and they are also finding ways to commit billions of dollars in insurance fraud. That is wild. Coming in number 2, we have the Vatican bunker. Now, this isn't a place where the Pope can go to hide out if the world starts to end because he was right about Armageddon. I mean, they probably have a room like that, but it won't be as exciting as the one I'm about to tell you about. The Vatican bunker is a place where they keep all the files that have been held in the Vatican for centuries. We're talking about 1,200 years of paperwork. I mean, I think you could fit most of that stuff onto a hard drive, so I don't know why they're still doing the whole pen and paper thing, but to each their own. But the Vatican archives have all of the juicy details about everything the church has done for a long time. You better believe that all of this information is closed to the public. In fact, if you ever get access to this secret bunker, you have to be a high-ranking scholar, and you can only look through certain folders. The Pope will vet everything that an outsider has access to before they are allowed into the bunker. And there is a hard cutoff. Anything that is younger than 75 years old, there is zero access to. That is a hard and fast rule that only the Pope can break. And even with probably the most accepting Pope of all time, he isn't about to let any of this information slip. But there is a lot of people who want to get their hands on those files with all the problems the church has been getting into in recent years. I can't go into details on this channel because it's disturbing, but either you know what I'm talking about or you're going to go look it up right now. And coming in at the number 1 spot is Area 51. Come on, this has to be number 1. What is going on in Area 51? Now, is this a room? Well, kinda. It's an indoor facility, so there is a room in there somewhere, I'm sure. But the whole thing has to be the biggest place that the government is hiding from us. And what is going on in there? We have no idea. I think we could all say aliens. That's probably what we're all thinking. But there could be some tech that will change the world. They could have mech suits in there that are like the ones from Pacific Rim. Just let us in already and we'll stop messing around with the stock market. I promise.